Hey everyone, Ed40 here with another Hardcore Nuzlocke with a twist. This time in Pokémon SoulSilver. If you don't know the rules, basically you can only catch the first viable encounter on each route, there are no duplicate encounters, if a Pokémon faints, they're dead. There are no items in battle outside of held items, and there are level caps equal to each gym leader or champion's ace. Now, the twist is akin to Flygon HG's Snap Locks, where I've randomized the total Pokémon from the first two gens and selected exactly half, excluding legendaries, pseudo-legendaries, starters, Heart Gold exclusives, or Gyarados. This leaves me with a total of 48 evolution lines, which I've also put in the description. This was a lot. I'm probably never going to do a run this big again after this one. This was not my best work. As a warning, this is the single most death-heavy run I've ever had. So if you want to see carnage, you're in the right place. If you're here for expert or even good Nuzlocke play, however, well, all I can say is sorry. Now, my first experience with the Johto games in any form came when I was around 10, and my friend's sister offered me her copy of Pokémon Crystal. I was so excited because I'd never played anything before Gen 3. Little did I know that game was glitched to the point where it was almost unplayable. It would randomly reset, so I was basically saving every 15 seconds out of fear. I beat the game once and then never touched it again. I picked Chikorita here, similar to my first time playing. He's not actually that bad, though I'll still die on the hill that he's the worst starter of the series, even as I usually prefer the grass type. I think Cyndaquil is going to be the hardest for my team, so that was the big factor here. When I got older, Heart Gold and SoulSilver came out. This was at the tail end of a 2-year stretch where I quote-unquote outgrew Pokemon, and it was kind of my first game back. I was so excited to see what a version of the Johto games that wasn't glitched would look like. Truth be told, it was a pretty mixed bag for me. The atmosphere was beautiful, and I loved the walking Pokemon and the improved story compared to the Kanto games. But the Team Rocket rehash was really unsatisfying, and the level curve made me want to tear my hair out. It doesn't scale well at all, and the section in Kanto's really the worst of this. My Nuzlocke challenges in the remakes have made me love them a bit more, but they're still probably in the bottom half of my Pokemon games to play through as a result. Now that we've got a Pokédex, let's catch some Pokemon, and there are a lot to get. I start on Route 29, where I catch a Rattata named Frosted Flakes. She has Runaway, which single-handedly makes training a level 2 Rattata feasible, but also a mild nature, minus defense and plus special attack, perfectly complementing the terrible rash nature of the Pidgey I catch on Route 30. Hope that doesn't come back to bite me. I go to Route 46, and I'm rooting for a Spearow here, who I get and name Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops has the exact opposite nature of Cheerios the Pidgey, thankfully. And now, it's finally time to make my way north. Here, I catch a Bellsprout I name Applejacks on Route 31, and a Ghastly I name Cornpop in Sprout Tower. Applejacks has a good naive nature, minus special defense and plus speed, and Cornpop has an amazing plus special attack minus attack modest nature. Finally, I run to the Ruins of Alph and do the first puzzle, which I love. These were always so much fun. And I catch an Unown I name Granola. One of my lazier names, I know, I'm sorry, there are gonna be more to come. But while I'm catching them, Hidden Power is super effective on Applejacks, and this leads me to believe their Hidden Power just might be Ice type, which is honestly the ideal. I switch to Cheerios, and I'm right! This is gonna be great for the entire early game. And Granola immediately shows me that by sweeping the Elder in Sprout Tower. It's also helped that neither Bellsprout's able to attack, but Hoot Hoot just lands a peck, and Granola stays above half the entire fight to get the job done. It's time for Falkner, but before I handle him, I head to Route 32 and catch a Hoppip I name Lucky Charms. Hoppip's one of my all-time favorite Pokemon, so I'm really happy to use him. Though he's definitely not showing up for Falkner and his hacked Pidgeotto. That's all Granola. Hidden Power doesn't quite take care of Pidgey, so he gets a tackle off, but another finishes the job. On Pidgeotto, though, it doesn't even do half. Unown is not a great Pokemon. After a Roost, another does a fraction, but that looks like enough to take him under next turn. And it is, so I'm thinking it's a 3-hit, but after another Hidden Power, Pidgeotto survives on a Sliver and sends Granola all the way to 4 HP! I've gotta switch now, and I bring in Frosted Flakes, who gets hit with a Gust, but thanks to Quick Attack, Pidgeotto's down, and I've got my first badge. Elm calls to let me know that I can pick up the Togepi egg, which I gladly do before making my way down south to my Union Cave problem. Here, I can catch a Zubat, Geodude, or Onix, but I don't want to catch an Onix here, because this is one of the few games I can actually catch a Steelix in. So I want to save that encounter for Cliff Cave. On the first floor of Union Cave, Onix only has a 5% chance of showing up, while the other two have a combined 55%, so it's not a huge worry, but it is still a risk. I'm hoping for a Geodude here, and I actually get one, who I catch naming her Cocoa Puffs. She's gonna be great for the early game, especially the next section with Bugsy and the rivals Quilava. It's so funny to me that the last time I played this game, Geodude fell apart here. But this time it's gonna be cake. Oh, how the turns tabled. Now I can just wait until night to catch Zubat on Route 33. I get Count Chocula, and even with the plus special attack minus speed quiet nature, I'm so excited to have him. And right after I catch him, my Togepi egg hatches. He's got a lonely nature plus hustle, so this is a pretty bad Togepi. I name him Cookie Crisp to mark my first real brush with disappointment. Azalea Town's always been my favorite town in Pokemon. I've never totally been able to figure out how people in Universe would interact with Pokemon outside of being like trainers. And Azalea Town does the best job of showing what that'd look like out of any place in the series. You've got the Craftsman and Kurt, an actual industry in the south, and Slowpoke Tales, which, as delicious as they sound, we can't have because Game Freak wants us to think that that's unethical. I've got to go to Kurt, who's bitterly enraged at the thought of people eating this delicious meat. But chicken's out, pardon the pun, so I've got to do all the work. This almost goes all the way off rails as an Ekans nearly wraps Count Chocula to death, but he's mercifully freed at 2 HP. Thankfully, I get a little treat to make up for this near death. A Slowpoke so delicious, I've gotta name her Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And after thrashing Proton and an evolution from Cookie Crisp, I'm ready to face Bugsy. Another great part of Azalea Town is this gym. These little Spinnerack platforms are so perfectly kitschy. Now, I've already got a ton of flying types, so this gym doesn't even have the possibility of being hard. But what is hard is the Cocoa Puffs I lead with. Scyther goes for a U-turn, doing way more damage than I thought he would. But now I'm able to max out her speed using Rock Polish on the Metapod. And then one Rock Throw gets rid of him, then the Scyther, you better not self-destruct, I swear. And finally, the Kakuna. And now it's rival time. This battle gave me so much trouble the last time I played SoulSilver, so I'm already feeling a little traumatized. But bringing out Cinnamon Toast Crunch certainly helps a bit. Worst case scenario, her tail gets barbecued, so it's a win-win situation for me. I lead with Cookie Crisp. Ghastly wastes a turn going for Mean Look before extrasensory KOs. It's about to do the same to Zubat, but he outspeeds and confuses. Cookie Crisp hurts himself twice in a row before snapping out. But last up is Quilava. I decide to leave him with a present and blow a little sweet kiss his way. But he doesn't hurt himself as Cocoa Puff switches in on a smokescreen. After hitting a weak magnitude 5, she's now taken 3, so I decide it's time to switch to Cinnamon Toast Crunch. After getting her accuracy dropped a bunch too, Water Gun finally connects twice to get us the win. I know these games are super easy, but this is wild. After catching Fruity Pebbles the Paris in Ilex Forest, and Grape Nuts the Exeggutor on Route 34, I get to the daycare. And seriously, I'm so consistently disappointed by the best friend character. I feel like after this scene, we basically never see them again. At least I can quell my anger with some Voltorb Flip. I feel like the fanbase is really split on this one, but it's gotta be my favorite arcade game in the series. When I first played SoulSilver as a middle schooler, I just remember spending hours playing it. You can get so sucked in. But while I get a bunch of TMs from this, I end up kinda wasting my effort. See, on the very last trainer I faced before I take on Whitney, I have to fight 2 Meowths. I've been switch training Grape Nuts here, and I bring Corn Pop in to get the KO on one of them, but she bites Corn Pop, which KOs even though she was close to full health. My team was beat up at this point, so she seemed like the best call, but I played that so wrong. I guess Frosted Flakes is coming back. With that, I decide to grind a little more, and get Lucky Charms to level 18, where he evolves into a Skiploom. Now I'm ready. Whitney's never been as hard of a gym leader as people always say. I definitely struggled against her the first time I played Crystal, but since then she's only been moderately hard. I open with Cookie Crisp. He yawns Clefairy as she uses Mimic. Not great that we could be put to sleep, but there's not much I can do about it. I hit Extrasensory hoping for a flinch, but she uses a pretty weak Double Slap, so Crisis averted anyways. Flamethrower brings her to a sliver before Whitney heals. 2 more get the KO, though the last one crits. I'm mixed on whether or not that was good, considering it's just Miltank now, but she's still got another Super Potion. I decide to yawn Miltank and waste her berry. Miltank outspeeds with a Stomp, but it nonetheless lands. I make what in retrospect was kind of a boneheaded play, and go for Flamethrower to see if I can get a burn, so Miltank will actually be put to sleep post-berry, but Stomp leaves Cookie Crisp at 9 HP before we can attack. I exposed him to a crit for an attack that didn't even burn! Miltank's berry activates now, so I'm just gonna switch. I decide to try with Cinnamon Toast Crunch, who comes in on a hard Stomp. I've just gotta hope I can get a yawn off, and I do. That was close though. I switch into Cocoa Puffs next, and she takes a Stomp before Miltank passes out. I decide to just spam Rock Smash and hunt for drops. My first leaves Miltank at half, and gets one. But my second just leaves her on a sliver. Whitney heals, and then my third gets another drop. So I think number 4 should do it. Miltank doesn't wake up, and we KO. Whitney crying after is so funny to me. Why'd you even sign up for this if you're just gonna break down after each loss? Afterwards, I do the thing that I wasted days of my life doing as a kid and hunt for a Yanma. I finally catch one, and this one has compound eyes, so I'm not super happy about it, but at least I've got another number now. It's so wild how many 1% encounters there are here, though. I'm glad Pokemon eased up on them after this game, because it made me want to tear my hair out. While I'm killing time before the bug catching contest opens, I decide to get my Route 36 encounter, but the Stantler I find doesn't have Intimidate, so I get rid of her. I can still try again on Route 37, but before that, Frosted Flakes evolves into a Raticate on the Sudowoodo. Well, okay, let's see how we do. This Stantler doesn't have Intimidate either. I guess that's a waste. I catch her anyways and name her Raisin Bran. She's got a plus special attack minus defense mild nature, which is okay. I actually love Stantlers. The Gen 2 games have all these weird Pokemon I find endearing, like Stantler, Girafarig, and Delibird. They're all the kinds of Pokemon who make runs a little more fun with all the chaos they add. Once I get to Ecruteak, I meet up with Bill and go back to Goldenrod to get an Eevee I named Golden Grams. I love how Bill gives him away because he just hates going outside. Stars, they're just like us. Following that, Rival 3 goes down after Frosted Flakes gets rid of Ghastly, and then Cocoa Puff scores 2 Magnitude 10s in a row to win. I also catch a Poliwag here I name Oreo O's. After causing Ucine to freak out, I do the bug catching contest, where I get a Caterpie I name Muesli. This was the only place I could catch one here, so I'm glad I didn't let that encounter pass me by. And little did I know how useful Muesli would be. Now, Morty's gym shouldn't be a problem, but we have a little oopsie on one of the trainers. I want to level up Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but on this trainer with 2 Haunters, she gets hit with a Nightshade right before defeating the first one, putting her exactly at the level of HP needed to KO with another. I don't want to keep her in, so I make a spur-of-the-moment switch to Lucky Charms, who gets hit with Mean Look. Lucky Charms doesn't have a single move to hit Haunter with, so this just became a near certain death. Unless Haunter uses Curse. Awesome! Now I've just got to stall her out until she uses another, but I decided to delay Synthesis for a turn because I thought I could, and she hits Nightshade, ending Lucky Charms' life. I'm so sorry, bud. I take out Raisin Bran the Stantler, evolve Cocoa Puffs, and move on to Morty. Now, I'm pretty sure I can cover Morty with just Frosted Flakes and Cookie Crisp. Raisin Bran too if need be. I lead with Cookie Crisp. Ghastly actually outspeeds, that's not a good sign, but just uses Spite. But now, Extra Sensory takes him out. Morty's first Haunter is in, and uses Curse before another Extra Sensory KOs. But now I definitely don't want to stay in with Cookie Crisp. I switch to Frosted Flakes as Gengar uses Hypnosis. Fortunately, the Chesto Berry I'd given Frosted Flakes activates, and now I can hit him a little below half pre-Citrus Berry. Next turn though, Gengar lands Hypnosis again. He hits Sucker Punch while I'm asleep, but I wake up on the next turn and Crunch KOs, so that really worked out. With that, I just Crunch Haunter to death and get my 4th badge. On Route 38, I catch a Magnemite I name Mini-Weeds, who has a pretty good plus defense and minus attack bold nature, but now I won't be able to get a Snubbull. It's not a super huge loss because I've got a bunch of normal types now, but it's never fun to see your total possible encounters list drop. That said, right after, I catch a Tauros I name Wheaties on Route 39. Following that, I catch a Krabby I name Special K in Olivine. I make it through the Olivine Lighthouse, one of my favorite locations in the game, even despite falling 2 stories from it. And now, I've got to get some medicine for this Ampharos. Do you think the reason Jasmine doesn't go is because she just doesn't have a Pokemon with Surf? Right after this, Count Chocula evolves into a Golbat and then a Crobat, and we're off! On Route 40, I catch a Staryu I name Rice Krispie, and on Route 41, I get a Chinchou I name Honeycomb. Both are awesome and have their best abilities in Natural Cure and Volt Absorb respectively, so I'm over the moon. However, as I'm training up on Route 41, I fight a wild Tentacool. I have Grape Nuts out, and I decide to use Leech Seed as Tentacool uses Toxic Spikes. But then, as I go for Uproar, Tentacool uses Acid, which does so much more damage than I thought it would, and now I'm about to be stuck in Uproar. Oh, that's so bad. Her Oranberry activates, but a new problem arises as it turns out this Tentacool has Liquid Ooze, meaning Leech Seed is actually hurting Grape Nuts. Tentacool goes for Acid again, and it crits, humiliating Grape Nuts as it kills her. I promise I'll kill every Tentacool we see in this run as revenge. I evolve Applejacks and get back to the grind. Training for Chuck is pretty chill, except for Raisin Bran getting KO'd by a rogue Fire Punch. Whoops! I'm flying through Pokemon much faster than I'd like, but nothing I can do about it right now. I'm just gonna get Cocoa Puffs back in my party and take Chuck on. I used to think Chuck was one of the easiest gym leaders in the series, but since starting this channel, he's kind of become more of a litmus test for me in evaluating how a run's going. I'm probably gonna win each time, but to comfortably beat him, I feel like you need Pokemon who are both fast and can hit hard. And so this Chuck fight can be a little tricky. For that reason, I start off with Cocoa Puffs. I don't really have a lot of great options here, but she also resists Rock Slide, which helps. I go for Magnitude and get 7 as Primeape double teams. That's what I feared actually, so now I've got to really hope this next one hits and is good enough to KO. Primeape uses Focus Punch, and Magnitude 9 KOs! Phew. Poliwrath is in, and I decide to bring some flavor into this battle by switching Cinnamon Toast Crunch in. I was expecting a Surf, but she actually gets put to sleep. I decide to keep her in though, and after taking a couple body slams, she wakes up and gets in a yawn of her own. Confusion's only doing around 40%, so after a missed Hypnosis and a body slam brings her to the low yellow, I know Chuck's gonna heal, and so I switch to Cookie Crisp. Extra Sensory's only doing a little better, so Chuck heals again after a couple turns. But after Hypnosis activates Cookie Crisp's berry, there's nothing that Poliwrath can really do except prolong the inevitable. Poliwrath falls, and overall, this run's going pretty well, right? But here's my least favorite stretch of the game. Because I've always loved leveling my team up evenly, everything after Cyanwood, but especially through the 7th gym, became so tedious, thanks to the genuinely ridiculous level curve. As a kid, I'd spend forever in like Cliff Cave, trying to gain a couple levels. I wish that the game was more balanced in a fun way. I get that they wanted to fit Kanto in too, but even that felt like an afterthought to me. At least now, I can get access to the Safari Zone. I don't want my Cliff Cave encounter until day, so I just rappel through it. Instead, I make my way to Route 48, where I've now guaranteed a Girafarig I catch and name Marshmallow Maybes. It's a bit of an inside bit, but moving on. I also catch a Pineco now in the Safari Zone gate, who I name Kashi, who's got a great plus special defense minus speed sassy nature. Both are amazing finds. Before I head back, I decide to Repel Trap Steelix into appearing. I get my Magnemite up to level 23, and then just walk around Cliff Cave until Steelix shows up. I catch him and name him Captain Crunch. He has a pretty good plus defense minus special attack impish nature, and he's immediately hopping in my party for Cocoa Puffs. It's so rare for me to get to use one, so I'm making the most of it. On Route 43, I catch a Venonat I name Annie's, and head up to the Lake of Rage. I always loved the little weird Team Rocket hustle in the gate. I like stopping by and just giving them a little money sometimes. They need it. After struggling more than I'd like with the red Gyarados, who always blew my mind as a kid, I watched Lance straight up murder a dude. I can't believe they okayed that. Big fan. But even though I catch a Voltorb named Alberries here, this is probably my least favorite location in all of Pokemon. The battles with all those grunts aren't only repetitive, but they're also tedious and easy. It's just such a waste of time. I kinda zone out and almost kill Cinnamon Toast Crunch here as a result. But now, it's time for my battle with Price. My team at this point actually has a pretty sizable ice weakness, but I've got an ungodly amount of Pokemon, so I'm keeping this team just going for it. I lead with Frosted Flakes. Hyper Fang doesn't even get sealed to the red, which isn't a good sign, and Icy Wind gets the speed drop. Not a huge issue since she's fast, but after a Crunch KO, Piloswine is in. Hyper Fang doesn't do half as he sets up Hail. Crunch brings him over before his Citrus Berry, but Blizzard connects to send Frosted Flakes all the way to the low yellow before her Citrus Berry activates, and it also freezes! I decide to get some chilled Slowpoke Tail and switch into Cinnamon Toast Crunch, who tanks Blizzard so well. Atta girl. Piloswine thankfully misses Mud Bomb and Surf KOs. It's just Dugong left, and he outspeeds with Aurora Beam and gets the drop before Headbutt. That's so lame. I guess it's just confusion now. After another Aurora Beam, it looks like it's doing a 5th. Cinnamon Toast Crunch's health is getting kinda low, but I decide to stay in and use one more, which pays off as she survives in the red and confuses Dugong. I then switch into Captain Crunch, who takes 2 Aurora Beams and then sets up Sandstorm. I kinda forgot he wasn't Rock type because of recency bias, so his special wasn't boosted, but he's at least a little over half now, and he can finally attack. Or, well, he could if Rock Tomb didn't miss. Let's try that again. One more hits, but Dugong survives on a sliver! But Sandstorm's still active and gets the KO. That's gotta be the most humiliating way to lose a battle, honestly. And then it's right to Jasmine. I've heard in the original games she's terrifying, but I don't honestly remember, and she's gotta be the easiest gym leader I've ever faced in the remakes. Cookie Crisp sweeps. I think he might be too slow, but he outspeeds and one-shots both Magnemites with Flamethrower. Steelix comes in and doesn't outspeed. Flamethrower sends her to the yellow before her Citrus Berry brings her back over half, but she just uses Screech, so this fight was free. Something's up with the radio tower, and to figure it out, I've got to dress up like a Team Rocket grunt. This, with the Crobat behind me, looks so sick. Thankfully, even though Team Rocket's taken over Goldenrod, and it's a phenomenal place to steal Pokemon from, they've left the Pokemon Center untouched, which is great for me after my fight with Petrol. It's time for Rival 4, and his team has a little bit of punch to them. I lead with Cinnamon Toast Crunch, whose tail is so delicious that Golbat can't help but take a bite. Confusion does under half, but that looks like a range because after another bite sends her to half, Confusion KOs. Haunter's in now, so I switch to Cookie Crisp, who comes in freely thanks to Shadow Ball. Extrasensory KOs, and then Flamethrower gets rid of Magnemite and Sneasel. Quilava's last, but here I just yawn, Ancient Power, and then switch to Frosted Flakes, who KOs with a Crunch. It's so funny to me that my rival hates Team Rocket so much, but only impedes me in fighting them. Right after this, Cinnamon Toast Crunch evolves, and even though her tail's covered now, she's only getting more powerful. And now it's time for the Team Rocket Boss Gauntlet. Proton's not too bad because Captain Crunch walls his Pokemon, but Confusion and Rock Tomb misses really drag this fight out. Ariana's not bad either, even though Count Chocula gets paralyzed and nearly faints in the process. And Archer's actually the easiest. Even with Houndoom, who I was terrified of, Count Chocula only gets hit with a Fire Fang, and no burn means a second fly KOs. It's time for the Blackthorn Gym. That is, after catching a Tangle I named Honey Bunches on Route 44. My team's starting to feel a bit frail, and I don't really have a lot of great move choices here, but making matters worse is that I get a Heart Scale for Captain Crunch, and just don't teach him anything with it. I went to Claire a bit early and just didn't realize until it was too late. I lead with Applejacks. He sets up a Sleep Powder on Gyarados, but none of his attacking moves really do much before Gyarados wakes up and starts doing some heavy damage with Dragon Pulse before Applejacks' Citrus Berry activates. He actually gets Gyarados into the red before Claire Hyper Potions, but after another Dragon Pulse brings him under a quarter, I decide to switch into Cinnamon Toast Crunch. She comes in on a soft Dragon Pulse, and then Gyarados can't resist trying to knock that shelter off her tail with a little bite as I go for Yawn. She slacks off after another, and then Confusion KOs outright. After Dragonair 1 spams Dragon Pulse, she gets put to sleep, and a combination of Slack Off and Confusion takes her down. But when Dragonair 2 comes in, she instantly paralyzes Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Not ideal. She puts Dragonair to sleep, and then begins to spam Confusion, but freezes up 4 times in a row, letting Dragonair wake up and send her to the red. I've gotta switch, so I go into Count Chocula. He comes in on a weak slam, but then Fly KOs. It's just Kingler left. I gamble and go for a Poison Fang, which Toxics! Hydro Pump connects to send Count Chocula to the third before his Citrus Berry, and now I Fly. Fly sends Kingler to a quarter before her Citrus Berry as Hydro Pump leaves Count Chocula on just 13 HP. I make what's probably a misplay here and go for Fly again. This was bad because now Claire can full restore, leaving Count Chocula or whoever I switch in susceptible to a potential KO. But Fly crits! And with that, I can just outspeed and bite her to death. A bit of a rocky middle, but I'm glad we managed to close that one out, even if having to do the Dragon Master test makes this all the more enraging. It's not hard, but it's such a weird way to end this leg of the game. But thankfully, right after, I catch an adorable Teddy Ursa named Golden Crisp, who even with just about the worst nature and modest is a great find, and a Wobbuffet I named Trix. With that, it's time for the Kimono Girls. I had so much trouble with them as a kid, so I'm hoping things will be better this run, but it's time to find out. Well, the Umbreon goes down thanks to Captain Crunch nailing him with a couple Iron Tails. Then Espeon gets walled by the Taste You Can See herself. But with Flareon, I decide to let Cookie Crisp take it. Now, Ancient Power does a little less than I'd like, but Fire Blast misses. I decide to try again, getting Flareon to the red. But Fire Blast hits and KOs. Oh, that sucks. I ran damage calculation after this, and that was a high roll. But there's not much I can do now. Captain Crunch gets rid of Jolteon, and then Cinnamon Toast Crunch uses Sleep and Recovery to ultimately whittle Vaporeon down. But now, I've got to figure out who I'm going to bring in. I ultimately decide on Mini-Wheats the Magnemite. I later learned that the Johto games don't even have anywhere with a special magnetic field, meaning they can't evolve into a Magnezone, even though there's a power plant right there in Kanto. Whatever. I do get one of my favorite tough encounters though. In Mount Mortar, I get to the back of the cave and face the Karate King himself. Thanks to some Sleep Powder shenanigans, Hitmon's Lee and Chan fall to some Razor Leaves, taking only a very strong Ice Punch in return. After beating him, I get a brand new Pokemon, a Tyroga named Great Grains. He has a naughty nature, plus attack and minus special defense, which is pretty good. In Rural Islands, I also pick up a Seal line named Honey Nut Cheerios. Now, the Seal line is really special to me because the first Pokemon card I ever got was a Dugong. An older kid gave it to me, I think because he didn't want it at all, but Dugong's always been my favorite non-legendary Pokemon as a result. I didn't end up using her this run, but she was still a welcome addition. At the bottom of Rural Islands, Lugia emerges. They're one of my absolute favorite legendaries, despite the fact that they're probably a little underwhelming, but the Gen 2 birds always have a special place in my heart. Anyways, Cinnamon Toast Crunch scores 2 crits in a row en route to put her down. See ya, Lugia. I then run back to Route 47 and catch a Miltank I named Crazy Cow. I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel for cereal names at this point. I also get a Doduo on Route 27 named Wheatbix. But on Route 26, I battle Ace Trainer Jamie, who has a Rapidash and a Flaffy. Using Frosted Flakes, I hit his strength, but Rapidash sets up agility. I decide I really want to try and snipe her with Sucker Punch, so I go for it, but she uses Will-O-Wisp instead. This is annoying, but I think I can take her. I Sucker Punch again, and Rapidash survives on a Sliver! Stomp then leaves Frosted Flakes at 13 HP, which gets totally erased after burn. That was so stupid! I think because I had a ton of Pokemon, I was playing this pretty unseriously, but it's such a bummer to lose my starter. And now that I get to the league, I need to figure out who I'm gonna bring with me. I ultimately go with Golden Crisp the Teddiursa, who I think is gonna be a great heavy hitter. After evolving him and Applejacks once he gets to level 47, I'm ready to take on the Elite Four. Here's my final team for the league. Let's see how this goes! The Elite Four here has always been kinda underwhelming. I think when everyone's team is in the 40s, it's just kinda hard for them to feel hard to fight. That said, what's cool is that they've got so many status moves that it just injects a ton of randomness into each run. It can make runs either really easy or super difficult. Will is deeply lame, but what makes him even lamer is that Mini-Wheats with a Lumberry basically walls his whole team. I'm so used to Magneton being slow that I'm surprised when they outspeed and discharge Xatu 1 into the ground. After a weak Psychic, Magnet Bomb sends Jinx into the red, and then after Will heals, I just hit 2 discharges to KO. After a Thunder Wave, 2 Magnet Bombs KO Exeggutor, and then Discharge gets rid of Xatu 2 and Slowbro respectively. Koga's one of the more roulette-y members in the league, but I think this one's gonna be okay because Count Chocula can handle this fight pretty well. Fly gets rid of Ariados and Venomoth. Fortress is a little weird because of Protect, but after 2 Flies connect, I decide to just try and predict Protect, which ultimately works on the second try. Crobat's in now, and Bite isn't doing enough, and Crobat's setting up double teams. So I just decide I'm gonna switch into Mini-Weeds, and Discharge does the job. Muck is left, and Discharge does half before Black Sludge. Muck then starts using Minimize though, and I decide to just go for Magnet Bomb before switching. My first misses, but my second connects, and oh wow, yeah, I will take that. Bruno can actually be one of the hardest members in this game, and that's the case here. But I lead with Count Chocula again, and Fly crits to get rid of Hitmontop, avoiding any potential counter situation. Then I swap into Cinnamon Toast Crunch on Onix, taking only minor damage in the process before Surf puts him away. Quick Claw activates to allow for a yawn, and after a hard Thunder Punch from Hitmonchan, I pivot back into Count Chocula through Captain Crunch. Fly gets rid of him, and then I decide to swap into Applejacks for Machamp. He only takes a little damage from Revenge, and I can put him to sleep. Ring Out doesn't do much, and then Machamp wakes up and hits Rock Slide to take Applejacks to half. But Citrus Recovery kicks in, and another Sleep Powder puts him to bed. I mess up and click it again because my finger pressing the A button was faster than my finger in charge of directions. But it's basically fine, and then Machamp gets sent to the red with 2 Leaf Blades. Bruno heals, so I Sleep Powder and then Leaf Blade crits. He doesn't heal, so my next KOs. I decide to put Hitmonlee to sleep, but he uses Blaze Kick, which I just forgot about. Anyways, no harm, no foul, and I can just switch back to Count Chocula for a fly and the win. I'm a little worried about Karen because she's so random, but what I want to see is how Golden Crisp does here. My gut says he can sweep. Umbreon and him get into a setup war. Double Team versus Swords Dance respectively. And with all that, Slash connects anyways and KOs once his attack maxes out. Gengar's up next, and with Destiny Bond, I'm a little worried. I try to observe speed and move choice here as I click Slash again. But Gengar outspeeds and uses Spite. Okay, I guess I'll take the risk then. And Gengar uses Spite again. Shadow Claw KOs. Houndoom outspeeds, and after setting up Nasty Plot, Slash KOs here too. Murkrow hits Pluck, and Slash gets rid of her as well. One more eliminates Vileplume, and we're on to Lance. Lance is one of the most terrifying champions to me, even though his teams have crippling weaknesses to Electric and Ice. How will my intrepid Pokemon fare this time? I lead with Mini-Wheats. Gyarados hits Waterfall, doing almost half, and gets the flinch. That's not great. One more brings them to the yellow, but they land Discharge. It crits, but I don't think that mattered here. Charizard's in now, so I switch into Cinnamon Toast Crunch on a Fire Fang. Air Slash connects, but Surf gets the job done and even crits. Now, the first Dragonite is in. I'm pretty sure this one has Thunder, so I go into my boy, Captain Crunch. After Ice Fang does half, I set up 3 Rock Polishes. This backfires a bit, as Dragon Rush ends up critting, but thanks to a Citrus Berry, Captain Crunch stays over half, and Ice Fang KOs Dragonite 1. The second one comes out, the level 51. And thanks to the sunk cost fallacy, I stay in, and Ice Fang does half again. But Fire Blast crits to KO! I don't think it even mattered, but what's with all these crits? That was a misplay. I'm so bummed I squandered my Steelix like that, since he's probably the only one I'll get to use for a while. I swap in CTC, who takes out Dragonite 2, and then gets hit to the red setting up Yawn. I go into Applejacks, who I know won't get hit by Fire Blast this turn at least, and then switch back to Slack Off a couple times. After that, Ice Beam KOs, and then thanks to Quick Claw, she outspeeds and gets rid of the final Dragonite. Aerodactyl can't help but crunch some breakfast on a whole other level. And since there's nothing stopping her now, Cinnamon Toast Crunch surfs him away to become champion. The boat section is actually one of my favorite parts of the game, which is funny to me because most of Kanto is so barren, but it's like this fun little side section, like with the early Sevi Islands, that makes this game feel way more fun and fresh. There are 11 Pokemon left to catch now though, so as I make my way to Janine, the caps in this game are so off. I start by catching. On Route 6, I catch a Psyduck I named Trio. On Route 7, I catch a Murkrow I named Cocoa Wheats, and then I also get a Porygon I named Alphabits from the Celadon Game Corner. And now, it's time for Janine. I was gonna lead with Kashi, but realized Mini-Wheats can just solo this whole thing. Crobat goes for Wing Attack and Discharge KOs. Weezing uses Double Hit, and then 2 Discharges get rid of her too. Gyarados 1 survives and hits a Psychic, which doesn't do much, but does get the drop. No worries, 1 more KOs. Venomoth's out now, and uses Signal Beam, but... What?! I had no idea what happened here, until I remembered Venomoth has Tinted Lens, which doubles the damage of ineffective moves. That, plus Stab, plus the special defense drop belled Mini-Wheats. That's so unfortunate. I bring in Count Chocula, who starts going for Fly, but Venomoth sets up double teams. After the first, Fly misses. After 2 more, Fly misses again, and Venomoth hits Psychic for over half. Thankfully with Citrus Berry, he can take another non-critical hit. 1 more Fly, and we connect. And KO! Phew! Just Gyarados 2, and Fly gets rid of her too. I can't believe Mini-Wheats went down like that though. RIP, buddy. Though it's so embarrassing for me to lose a Pokemon on Janine. I decide to take Crazy Cow the Miltank. She's got a plus attack minus defense brave nature, which is solid. Ironically, in the very next battle, Golden Crisp faints too. There's truly nothing I could do here. This trainer had 3 Electrodes, and the first one used Explosion, which crit. If I'm being honest, that broke me. Golden Crisp was phenomenal, and what a rough way to go. I've been losing Pokemon like it's an apocalypse, so what's the point anymore? I picked Muesli the Caterpie to replace him, because why not? Even though I now have 3 Pokemon weak to Electric going into the Electric Gym, it's whatever. But actually, in the midst of my despair, I think I've discovered a use for Muesli. After evolving her into a Butterfree, I give her a Focus Sash and Face Surge. Raichu goes for Double Team, but Compound Eyes helps Sleep Powder land. Thankful that Muesli didn't get hit, I U-turn into Kashi. Just as Raichu wakes up! That was so unlucky to get a 1-turn sleep. Raichu uses Thunder Wave, which gets cured by Kashi's Lumberry, and then Earthquake connects to KO. The Electrode with Self-Destruct is in, and hits a Screech, but that's basically free for me, because Earthquake KOs again. Electrode 2 tries Double Team, and that doesn't work much against another Earthquake hit. Magneton's out and also tries Double Team, which we hit through again. That is so lucky. And now it's Electabuzz. How much will Low Kick do after Screech? Not even half. Earthquake connects and KOs for the win. After the string of deaths I've had, this feels so good. I hate this gym and its stupid trash can puzzle, so I'm happy. Focus Sash Muesli is officially my lead for the rest of this run. And now we're on to the Power Plant arc, the 1 ounce of plot that happens in Kanto. En route, I catch an Electabuzz named Reese's on Route 10, but I didn't realize the random patch of grass above the Pokemon Center there is Route 9 in these games. That's such a weird choice, I'm not a fan. Especially after having just used that grass as Route 10 in my Fire Red Nuzlocke. I also catch a Sunkern I named Suncruncher on Route 24. I try going into Cerulean Cave, but I have to have all 8 Kanto badges first? I'm literally the champion! I hate this weird Kanto superiority complex. But after a brief respite from deaths, I regret to say we have another. After completing the totally inferior Nugget Bridge, I'm challenged to a battle by the guy at the end. This starts out totally fine until Crazy Cow gets swaggered. Wanting to make sure nothing happens after she hurts herself, I swap into Count Chocula. He does a good chunk of damage with Fly, but he gets swaggered too. He hurts himself on the first turn a bit, taking a third, but Hydro Pump misses, and then he hits himself again on turn 2. And Hydro Pump connects to KO! RIP, buddy. That's so sad. Count Chocula is one of the longest tenured Pokemon on my team at this point, and his absence is going to be deeply felt. I bring in Great Grains the Tyrogue and evolve him into a Hitmontop, and with the machine part returned, it's time to face Misty. Like with Surge, I lead with Muesli. I outspeed and hit Sleep Powder, but after Bug Buzz doesn't even do half, Golduck wakes up and hits Water Pulse for a good chunk. No confusion though, so I put her to sleep again. But after another Bug Buzz, she wakes up again and disables. Misty heals, so I put Golduck to sleep again, and hit U-turn into Applejacks. Applejacks gets rid of Golduck with Leaf Blade, but now Lapras is in. I put her to sleep, and then swap into Great Grains. I fake her out, but she actually wakes up during, so now I've gotta hope Close Combat does the job. And it does! On to Quagsire. And I just swap back into Applejacks as she uses Amnesia, and then I KO with Leaf Blade. It's just Starmie left, and they outspeed and hit Confuse Ray, but a Lumberry I forgot was even attached comes in clutch. Only for Applejacks to miss Sleep Powder. Ugh. I try again, and this time Starmie confuses, but we break through to miss again. Okay, this isn't working. Anticipating an Ice Beam now, I go into Cinnamon Toast Crunch, who gets her tail chilled before yawning Starmie. I decide to go for Psychic to see if I can get the drop, which doesn't work, and now that Starmie's asleep, I swap into Muesli, and Starmie wakes up and confuses! I need Muesli to break through, and she does, with a final Bug Buzz to end the fight. That's probably the single worst sleep luck I've ever had in a battle though. Everyone woke up early, or my sleeps just missed. Glad to be moving on to Brock now. And after getting rid of the Snorlax, Brock's exactly where I'm going. The best part of this fight is that his whole team is doubly weak to grass, so I give Applejacks a Choice Scarf, and outside of Amistar hitting a Protect, every single Pokemon gets one-shot with Leaf Blade. With Sabrina, I was gonna lead with Muesli, but the problem is that 2 of her Pokemon have synchronized, so I go with Kashi. Espeon goes for Calm Mind, and then Bug Bite leaves him on a Sliver. But after Sabrina heals, he uses Psychic, not doing more than a third as Bug Bite KOs. Mr. Mime sets up Light Screen as she gets 2 hit by Bug Bite. With Alakazam, I decide to get cheeky and use Toxic, but after Psychic activates Kashi's Citrus Berry, Toxic misses. Alas. Bug Bite steals Alakazam's Citrus Berry after Reflect, and then one more gets the KO. Not too shabby. I go right into Erica next, and this is probably my least favorite gym because it's so cut heavy, so I bring my starter Chikorita along and leave Great Grains in the PC. I lead with Cinnamon Toast Crunch. You might think this is stupid, but, well, it might have been a little bit. Jumpluff outspeeds and hits a surprisingly weak U-turn into Tangela, who instantly gets one hit with Ice Beam. Okay. Blossom is in now, and I'm pretty sure Cinnamon Toast Crunch can tank a hit, so I go for Ice Beam. She survives in the yellow before a Citrus Berry heals her up, and then goes for Sunny Day. I definitely don't think I can take a Solar Beam, so I swap into Muesli. After 2 surprisingly soft Solar Beams in a row, Bug Buzz KOs, and Jumpluff's in. She outspeeds and hits Leech Seed before I put her to sleep, so I just U-turn right back into Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Jumpluff wakes up next turn and uses Sunny Day, so the next Ice Beam KOs again. It's just Victreebel left, and I know what to do. I swap into Applejacks, who tanks a Leaf Storm, and then I put Victreebel to sleep. I go for Sludge Bomb, but I forgot he still had the choice specs, so I've got to switch. I go into Crazy Cow as Victreebel wakes up, but Leaf Storm's not doing much at all now. So after a couple Zen Headbutts, she's in the ground, and I've got some more Pokemon to catch. On Route 13, I catch a Chansey after about an hour of searching, only remembering at the very end that I wasn't recording. I name her Magic Gems and use my Master Ball on her. Then, on Route 1, I catch a Pokemon I can't believe I didn't get sooner. A Furret I name Fruit Rings. Finally, I catch a Horsey in the Seafoam Islands who I name Deep Sea Crunch. But now, it's time for Blaine, and I'm a little worried here, considering my team has 3 weaknesses to fire, but there's not a ton I can do, so let's see how it goes. I open with Muesli, Sleep Powder connects, and then I U-turn into Cinnamon Toast Crunch. As my Cargo wakes up! Oh, that's so annoying! He just uses Sunny Day and then Surf KOs. Magmar's in now, and anticipating a Thunder Punch, I go into Applejacks, but Magmar actually uses Confuse Ray. I swap back into Cinnamon Toast Crunch, who gets singed from Overheat, but I can get off a Yawn as a second doesn't crit, and then just pivot back to Applejacks. I use 2 Sludge Bombs for the KO. It's just Rapidash left, and I decide to try for a Sleep Powder. But he outspeeds and KOs with a Flare Blitz! Oh no, I feel terrible now. I go into Great Grains at least, and waste his White Herb with Intimidate. I use Fake Out, and as I'm going for Stone Edge, Rapidash uses Bounce. Okay, I need to switch. I go into Kashi, who takes it well, getting paralyzed before her Lumberry kicks in. I then switch back to Great Grains, who takes a Flare Blitz pretty well, but then Rapidash outspeeds and Overheat KOs? I didn't think it'd do that much, and now this battle's officially a massacre. I bring in Crazy Cow, and after a couple turns trying to work around Bounce, Body Slam KOs for the win. That battle was rough. I can't believe Blaine's killed a third of my team twice in a row. Now I need to do some rebuilding. After some deciding, I ultimately bring out Weet-Bix the Doduo and Honey Bunches the Tangela. I evolve them both and head into the Viridian Gym. I stop in the Pokemart after the battle and get 2 sets of Aqua Berries. Really would have been useful before the last gym, but thanks. Blue, in my opinion, is the single hardest gym leader ever. That's not a huge surprise considering he doesn't have a type rule for some reason, but his team packs a serious punch. After getting a few items, I head in to face him. I lead Muesli. She puts Exeggutor to sleep, even though it's probably not necessary, and then Bug Buzzes him away. Arcanine's in now, and I use another Sleep Powder and U-turn into Cinnamon Toast Crunch. But Arcanine wakes up and hits a Dragon Pulse! It only does a quarter, but oof. I use Surf, which KOs, and then Rhydon's in. I click Surf, but he outspeeds and uses Mega Horn. Thankfully, Cinnamon Toast Crunch survives on a quarter and KOs, but she's probably done for the fight. Machamp is out now, and I switch Kashi in to take an Earthquake. Machamp uses Dynamic Punch next, which activates her Citrus Berry, and then Kashi uses Toxic. Perfect. I switch into Honey Bunches on another Dynamic Punch, and then she outspeeds but gets hurt in confusion as Stone Edge crits. I try again, and she gets hurt again to 20 HP! I need to risk Honey Bunches here. And she hits Power Whip through confusion to KO. Pidgeot is in now, so I rotate to Crazy Cow on a return. Body Slam does just under half and paralyzes as he uses Mirror Move. Thankfully this doesn't paralyze, but that could have been bad. I go for Zen Headbutt next, which activates his Citrus Berry. I probably should have gone for Body Slam, but I'm here now. Return brings Crazy Cow to the yellow, so after Zen Headbutt brings Pidgeot to the red, another brings her to the red too. Blue heals, so I take the turn to use a rest that's cured with a Lumberry. Body Slam paralyzes again, and after a Whirlwind, Air Slash does a bunch of damage to Crazy Cow when she switches back in. After a Zen Headbutt, a second sends Crazy Cow back to the yellow. But now, Body Slam can KO, and it's just Gyarados. I swap into Muesli, and Gyarados goes for Waterfall, which crits! But it activates Muesli's Focus Sash! Incredible. I put Gyarados to sleep, and then U-turn into Weet-Bix. Secret Power does just under half, but Gyarados wakes up and uses Dragon Dance. That's terrifying. I'm kind of just in it now though, so Pursuit gets him under half as he Dragon Dances again. Moment of truth. Do we outspeed? No! Gyarados uses Waterfall, and Weet-Bix survives on 2 HP and KOs with Secret Power. I got so lucky there. I think I just should have used Fly, but that feels amazing. I have a couple more Pokemon to catch before I take on Red though. In Cerulean Cave, I catch a Machoke. Or well, I would have if Bug Buzz didn't crit. Thanks a lot, Muesli. In Rock Tunnel, I catch a Cubone I name Berry Bones. And on Mount Silver, I encounter a Mischievous, who I put to sleep, but she wakes up almost instantly and uses Perish Song. That means I have 2 turns to catch her before I need to switch, and unfortunately I don't in that time. That means all that's left is my Safari Zone encounter. Now, because of my last few encounters, I can either get a Machop or a Mischievous here. But Machop only appears in the morning or the day, so Mischievous it is! I happen to get one of the layouts with their area on my first try, and I run into one. But after throwing mud, she flees, so I guess I'm not getting either, capping me out at 45 different Pokemon lines. I have a slight problem now, which is that none of my party can learn Rock Climb, which I need to get to Red. I decide to swap in Trio the Psyduck for Weet-Bix, and I level her up. I use rare candies for this fight. At this level, nothing's killing my Pokemon, and this game is by far the least fun to grind in. But here's my final team. Now, Red can either be trivial or a menace, and this one's feeling more like the latter. Let's see how it goes. I lead with Honey Bunches. Thunderbolt does so much more damage than it should, and Power Whip responds to KO. Charizard's in now, and if Thunderbolt did that, I'm not keeping her in to see what Air Slash will do. I swap to Cinnamon Toast Crunch, who actually takes a Flare Blitz instead. I decide to go for something that may not work, but I hit Yawn as Air Slash does around half. She can't take another hit, so I'm gonna go into Crazy Cow. She takes an Air Slash to just under half as Charizard falls asleep. Perfect. Now I swap back to Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and her Quick Claw activates for Rain Dance! Now I won't have to worry about Hail Chip for a bit. That always makes this battle so annoying. Now, Charizard doesn't wake up next turn, and Surf KOs. Venusaur is in now, so I swap to Muesli, who takes a weak Giga Drain before putting Venusaur to sleep. I do a couple Bug Buzzes to bring him to half before I U-turn into Trio. As Venusaur wakes up and hits Sleep Powder! Oh no! I have to swap back and do so as Venusaur hits Frenzy Plant. That was close, but now I can put him back to sleep. Red heals him up as I keep Bug Buzzing, and then I take him to around half and get the Special Defense drop! That's awesome. I switch back into Honey Bunches on a U-turn, and then go right back as I realize Bug Buzz can take care of this. As I switch back though, Venusaur wakes up and hits a hard Sludge Bomb to leave Muesli in the red. I don't want to take any chances now, so I put him to sleep and then Bug Buzz for the kill. That sleep wasn't necessary, but I was freaked after taking a ton of Sludge Bomb damage for nothing. Lapras is up, so I sleep him and then U-turn into Kashi. But Lapras instantly wakes up and goes for Brine. I use Rock Slide, but it just brings him to half. I try for a Toxic, but it misses, and Brine brings Kashi under half. But I don't have anyone I want to switch into, so I've got to let Kashi go. And she makes the bravest sacrifice by taking a final Brine. She's gone, but not forgotten. But now, I switch Muesli in and put Lapras to sleep before U-turning into Honey Bunches, who then Power Whips Lapras to death. Snorlax is up now, but I'm able to put him to sleep and then set up Substitute, activating Honey Bunch's Citrus Berry. But then Snorlax wakes up, but misses Blizzard! Wild! I just put him back to sleep, and then 2 Power Whips and 2 Ancient Powers get the job done. It's just Blastoise left, and he instantly hits Blizzard to shatter my sub! I put him to sleep and set it back up, but Blastoise wakes up and shatters it again with Focus Blast. I need Power Whip to KO, but it doesn't. Red full restores, so I use Sleep Powder, but it misses! I don't really have a choice. I need to let Honey Bunches go. And with 1 Focus Blast, she's out for good. But with Honey Bunches gone, I go to Muesli. But Blastoise outspeeds to KO with Flash Cannon! That's wild! I can't believe Blastoise outsped here. I guess I've got to go to Cinnamon Toast Crunch. She uses Yawn as Blastoise hits Blizzard, but it only does a third of her current HP, so I should be okay. And I am, as my favorite Cinnamon Sugar Square survives on 12 HP from Focus Blast. I then hit a Psychic, which does over a third. But now, Blastoise falls asleep, and after a Surf and another Psychic, he's down and out, and I just beat Red after another massacre. I'm really happy I won this run, but this was a rough way to do it. I lost Pokemon like crazy, and a ton of my deaths were just rushed or due to my bad assumptions. I think part of it is that at a certain point it's like Survivor, where if you're doing really well, you start just wanting to play hard and vote people out. And I started feeling pretty bad about the lack of deaths, which made me play a little more carelessly. All in all though, this late game is hard. I still stand by my take that this game becomes kinda a slog, and these videos really reflect that, because they always run a little bit long. But I tried to make it engaging and use Pokemon who, outside of Slowbro, I never used meaningfully in a challenge before. I also tried to keep the same team throughout at a certain point. That put me in weird places where I'd have horribly unbalanced teams, but it made a lot of combinations really interesting to me. I especially loved my late game Butterfree strat, where I gave her a Focus Sash, U-turn, Bug Buzz, Sleep Powder, and just let her status everyone with Compound Eyes. It was a great way to rediscover a Pokemon who I usually feel is unusable past the 3rd gym in any game. I usually like to show all the photos I took of the game at the end because I think it's a really nice way to show the different steps of the journey, but even here, a couple of these are glitched out. This one really was a mess, but that's a wrap. I hope you liked this video. I know it wasn't my best work, but I hope you liked watching me make one mess after another. Please feel free to give a like or subscribe to my channel. If you have any suggestions or things you'd like to see me do, please feel free to leave a comment, at me on Twitter, or email me with your suggestion at ed40plays@gmail.com. Next stop is Hoenn. Catch you all there!